Another sensitive topic is when you've seen somebody do something that isn't quite right, and you wonder to yourself, do I need to tell somebody about it? I'm Dawn, and this is Have That Talk. Let's talk about those moments when you're a witness to something going on, and you're wondering whether to tell somebody about it. It could be you heard somebody say something or do something inappropriate. It could be you picked up on a conversation about some shady practice, or it could be something where you were sitting in a meeting and a decision was made and you felt that it was the wrong move, but you didn't have the authority to speak up in that meeting. And you're wondering if you need to tell somebody else, your boss or HR or legal or compliance. Either way, you're sitting with that decision and wondering, what shall I do? The fact that your conscience is speaking is actually a good thing, because sometimes we pick up signals of things going wrong subconsciously before our rational mind catches up. The signals you're picking up may be about fairness. Somebody's not being treated right, or a decision is having a stronger impact on some individual or some group, and you feel the need to speak up about it. But at the same time, that person you're worried about hasn't asked you to speak up. They haven't requested your support. In fact, they may not even want you to speak up on their behalf, because that may expose them to even greater risk, and they don't want to rock the boat. And in such circumstances, you have the option just to let it pass, not do anything. You also have the option to speak up, to inform the appropriate channels. And depending on the setup of your organization, there may be opportunities to speak up anonymously, to send a message via an anonymous channel. But before you decide, you have to think about these three questions. Who is affected? Who needs to know? And what is the outcome you actually want to achieve? If you've witnessed the situation firsthand, you'll know who that affected person is. Do they know that you know what's going on? Do they know that you plan or want to speak to somebody about it? Because this may be the first conversation you need to have, and it doesn't come without risks. The risk of the person involved feeling exposed, embarrassed, or patronized. The risk that the person will decline your support, in which case you need to think about whether or not you want to honor that and how that will affect your working relationship. Also, the risk to you that you've misunderstood something and you got the wrong end of the stick. And in a way, you expose yourself as somebody who's meddling in something that's not your business. So the way into a conversation like this is with a wide open mind. Don't assume that you know everything. Don't assume that you understand what was going on. Open it up with a question like, I saw such and such going on, and it got me worried about you. But I don't want to make any assumptions. Do you want to talk about it? And then you'll get your answer, and you'll know how and whether to proceed. You'll get an understanding of whether your observation was accurate or a misunderstanding or an interpretation based on your own assumptions. And on to the second point about who to tell. And here again, your first conversation with the person involved will give you a few pointers, because then you'll get an understanding of what's actually been going on and how serious the situation is. You can give an indication of whether you have a legal, HR, or operational concern. And even if the person impacted tells you that they don't need your help, there is a decision that you need to make as to whether you think it will be beneficial to override that. And an indication of how beneficial your intervention will be will also depend on the outcome that you want to achieve. So think about if the worry or concern is just your own and it's unjustified, if it's real and you need to bring it up, and also think about the ball that you'll get rolling once this comes out into the open. So whether you're thinking of speaking to the manager or HR or legal or compliance, think about what are they going to do with the information? What are the consequences? And these may be far-reaching, because sometimes when things are brought out in the open, they have a ripple effect. They affect the person who speaks up, the person who's impacted, the team around them, the manager. By speaking up, you might set off a chain reaction that you can't stop once it starts. So whether or not to speak up and tell somebody else about something that's not quite right is a values-based decision. And here, it's important to understand whether your values align with the company values. And I'm not talking about the company values written on the website. I'm talking about the unwritten company values that influence the culture of the organization. So think about these things: the person involved, your understanding of the situation, whether or not you override somebody's decision to speak up or not, who you speak to, and also the consequences when things come out into the open. It's not an easy decision, but it's important to have all this in mind when you go in to have that talk. Okay, I'll see you next time.